He's got a house full of children, and now he's going to spend the rest of his life in a penitentiary. I mean, who's going to take care of your kids?
Jody was 11 when his teacher kidnapped and molested him. The teacher was eventually arrested, and Jody's father knew he'd be escorted through an airport on live TV. The father decided to wait there in disguise, ready to do something nobody could have imagined. Here are 10 parents who took revenge on child molesters. Number 10. Jason Browning.
I just walked in and found a grown man molesting, and I got him in a bloody puddle for you right now, officer.
July 18th, 2014. An angry father in Daytona Beach, Florida made a frantic call to 911. He reported that he had caught someone molesting his son and took matters into his own hands by beating that molester until he was knocked out, ready for the police to apprehend. The father, Jason Browning, described the scene to the dispatcher, stating that the assailant, Raymond Frolander, was still breathing but unable to speak. Frolander was lying on the floor, unconscious. Curious about the extent of the father's actions, the dispatcher asked if he had used any weapons to knock out Frolander. Browning simply replied, "My fist and my foot." The shocking photographs of 18-year-old Raymond Frolander's battered face quickly spread across news outlets worldwide. They served as a visual testament to the violent encounter he had experienced at the hands of the enraged father. But the question is, what really happened that fateful night? According to the father, he immediately sensed something was wrong when he arrived home. The look on Frolander's face confirmed his suspicions. As Frolander's pants fell to his ankles, the father knew no further explanation was needed. He had witnessed a disturbing sight that left him with no choice but to take action. The father explained that Frolander, who was close to the family, was in their apartment while he was out. However, when he returned home and discovered what happened to his son, he began beating this harasser up until he was black and blue. He even told 911 dispatcher that he had loved Frolander up until 15 minutes ago. You can easily imagine that Jason Browning was seeing red at that very moment. So what stopped him from killing Frolander with his bare hands?
I attacked him viciously, and I didn't stop. The only time I paused was to go to the kitchen and retrieve a butcher knife because I was going to kill him.
The father indeed admitted that his initial instinct was to kill Frolander to ensure that he could never harm anyone again. However, his son intervened and saved his own attacker's life, reminding his father of what he's got to lose.
He just looked at me and said, "Sir," and shook his head and no. And I just put the knife down.
April 2nd, 2015. Frolander was sentenced to 25 years in prison for molesting the child. By accepting a plea deal, he avoided a mandatory life sentence. However, in addition to his prison term, Frolander was mandated to register as a sex offender for life and wear a GPS monitor upon release. Meanwhile, the father faced no charges for his actions. When asked about Browning's reaction, Daytona Beach Police Chief Michael Chitwood responded, "The father acted as a father should act." Number 9. Pamjet Singh. A father in India turned into a relentless vigilante after a teenager sexually abused his daughter. Paraminder Singh was accused of molesting Pamjet Singh's baby in 2014 after the child's mother caught the teen in the act. April 19th, 2016, right after the court hearing, Pamjet Singh announced that he was going to forgive the accused and settle the matter outside of court. However, his plan for settling was far beyond anyone's wild imagination. Pamjet offered to drive the boy home to the village where they both lived, Kotliablu, on his motorbike. Along the way, however, Pamjet stopped that bike and brutally attacked Parminder. He beat him badly, tied him to a tree, and chopped off his hands with a machete. Pamjet then fled the scene, leaving the teen abandoned near a canal, writhing in agony. The local residents discovered the teenager and quickly informed the police, who rushed him to the hospital where the doctors managed to stabilize him, but his hands couldn't be saved. Pamjet Singh was arrested the next day and was charged with attempted murder under Section 307 of the Indian Penal Code. During his questioning, Pamjet admitted to planning the crime in advance, as he had brought a rope and a sharp weapon with him. This outstanding revelation has only intensified the shock and outrage surrounding the incident. Supporters argue that the father's actions were driven by his anguish and frustration with the justice system's failure to adequately protect his daughter. On the other hand, critics emphasize the importance of due process and upholding the rule of law, While this incident raises difficult questions about the lengths one can go to seek justice, it also underscores the urgent need for a strong legal system that can effectively address such heinous crimes and protect the victims. Number 8. Kenneth Fulmer. July 2015, in Maury County, Tennessee. Father's protective instincts led to a shocking confrontation. Kenneth Fulmer couldn't stand the thought of Thomas Williams, a man accused of soliciting his 2 daughters, getting away with just 3 years of supervised probation as punishment. Fulmer's anger reached its boiling point, resulting in a violent encounter that ultimately led him being in handcuffs. But how did everything start? Late 2014, Fulmer, a devoted father in his 30s, had a gut feeling that something was wrong with his 2 daughters. He suspected abuse and wasted no time in reporting it to the Columbia Police Department. It turned out that his daughters were being abused by Williams, whom they thought were related to through marriage. March 2015. The Amur County grand jury indicted Williams on 2 counts of solicitation of a minor. This charge involves unlawfully persuading or enticing a person under the age of 18 to engage in inappropriate activities. Williams was arrested in April and held on a $2,000 bond. However, he managed to make bail on the same day. Fulmer was deeply affected by the seriousness of this situation and was determined to ensure justice was served. When he heard the news of Williams' guilty plea, which wouldn't result in any jail time, Fulmer's anger reached its peak. Driven by overwhelming emotions, Fulmer confronted Williams directly. Recalling the encounter, Fulmer described how Williams opened his door and stepped outside. Fulmer couldn't help but ask him why he had done such a terrible thing to his children. Williams could only respond with, "I don't know." That's when Fulmer lost control and started physically attacking him. Williams later said that Fulmer had punched him in the face and forcefully pushed him down the stairs. Fulmer didn't stop there and continued to assault Williams, striking him multiple times. The severity of the confrontation led to Williams being taken to a local hospital. Williams did no jail time. A circuit court judge acknowledged that Williams hadn't gotten off lightly, but also noted that he hadn't been charged with physically touching the girls. On the other hand, Fulmer found himself arrested and charged with aggravated assault. In response, Fulmer said, "I did it for my daughters. Would I go to jail for my daughters? You're damn right I would. It's not right. These people don't have to listen to my daughters waking up in the middle of the night screaming, 'Stop!'" Number 7. Eduardo Gallo. July 2000. Eduardo's 25-year-old daughter, Paula, vanished from his weekend house in Tepoztlan, Mexico. Gallo was distraught and soon received a call from a gang demanding a hefty ransom for her safe return. Desperate to get his daughter back, Gallo managed to scrape together $18,500 and some jewelry, which he promptly handed over to the kidnappers. Tragically, a week later, Paula's lifeless body was discovered. Gallo tearfully expressed his love for his beloved child at her funeral by saying, "I'll always love you, my adored child. Thank you for your smile and your caresses. Thank you for your songs, your happiness, and your love of life. You always lit the path so I could distinguish between justice and vengeance." The pain Gallo felt was indescribable. He knew that his daughter's last moments must have been filled with terror, as she'd been shot in the back and neck. Although 3 suspects were swiftly apprehended, the actual triggerman responsible for ending Paula's life remained at large. Driven by an overwhelming desire for justice, Gallo made a drastic decision. He shut down his consulting firm and transformed himself into a relentless sleuth, determined to track down the killer himself. Over the next year, Gallo tirelessly pursued leads on the streets and meticulously analyzed phone records. His research revealed that a staggering 90% of kidnappings in Mexico go unreported. This is because the closest to the victims are often paralyzed with fear, terrified of the brutal consequences that may follow. But what about Paula? She was kidnapped from her parents' house by a group of audacious men who broke into the house. After ransacking the place, they forcibly grabbed Paula and made their getaway in 2 stolen cars from the driveway. Also, what sets Paula's case apart from any others in Mexico was that her father was not the type to give up or back down out of fear or reprisal. And his determination did pay off in the end. Paola's father not only managed to identify the main gunman, but also helped the authorities track him down. Our resourceful hero had traced one of the kidnappers to a payphone he used after the crime. The police then set up a stakeout, leading to the arrest of 28-year-old Francisco Zamora Arellano, who ended up confessing to the whole crime. We can't help but be in awe of Gallo's unwavering determination to uncover the truth and seek justice. Despite facing unimaginable grief, he channeled his pain into becoming a beacon of hope for countless others who had silently suffered in Mexico's epidemic of violence. Number 6. Andrei Bamberski. July 10, 1982. Tragedy struck when Kalinka Bamberski was discovered lifeless at her stepfather's house in Lindau, Germany. The examination of her body uncovered some seriously disturbing details: injection marks, torn private parts, and even a mysterious white substance inside her. But surprisingly, nobody bothered to test that substance. And on top of it all, her reproductive organs were inexplicably removed during the autopsy. Now, let's meet the key characters in this horrifying tale. Kalinka's biological father, Andrei Bamberski, was living in France when he got wind of the news. Naturally, he was absolutely horrified. On the other side of the coin, her stepfather, Dieter Krumbach, who happened to be a prestigious doctor, was only questioned once by the German police. Just once. Can you believe that? It was only publicized later that he had also injected her with several other substances. But that wasn't enough, because Krumbach may have also been present at her autopsy. To make matters worse, when Bamberski finally got his hands on that autopsy report months later, the prosecutors had already closed the case, claiming no foul play. Andrei Bamberski was absolutely convinced that his daughter had been brutally assaulted and murdered, and he couldn't bear the thought of a powerful predator walking free. Fueled by his determination, he took matters into his own hands, distributing leaflets accusing Krumbach of this heinous crime, and hiring a lawyer to file a complaint against him in France. At this point, Krumbach's shady past was already raising eyebrows. His first wife had tragically passed away at the young age of 24, leaving behind a cloud of suspicion. And if you want more, years later, Krumbach was found guilty of drugging and sexually assaulting a female patient. The pieces were starting to fall into place, and Bamberski's resolve to bring Krumbach to justice for his daughter's murder only grew stronger. 2009, in a bold move, Bamberski decided to take drastic measures. He orchestrated the kidnapping of Krumbach from Germany and arranged for him to be transported to France. Dropping him off at a nearby police station was a calculated move that ultimately led to Krumbach's arrest and subsequent conviction for the crime in 2011. The disgraced doctor received a sentence of 15 years in prison. He served a significant portion of that term, spending 9 years behind bars until he was released on medical grounds in 2020. It's hard to imagine the relief Bamberski must have felt knowing justice had finally been served, even if it was a long and challenging journey. However, Bamberski's actions didn't go unnoticed. 2014, he found himself on trial for the kidnapping, facing the consequences of his vigilantism. Ultimately, he was handed a 1-year suspended jail sentence for his actions. And well, we can bet that that was a price he was definitely willing to pay, for his story is the perfect testament to determination, sacrifice, and a father's unwavering love for his daughter. Number 5. A Texan Father.
I need an ambulance.
Okay.
I need an ambulance. This guy was wrecking my daughter and I beat him up.
June 9th, 2012. On a ranch on the outskirts of Shiner, Texas, the adults were shoeing a horse while a girl and her brother went to feed the chickens. In a distressing incident, a 47-year-old man named Jesus Mora Flores, who worked as a farmhand for the family, forcefully took the girl and brought her to a secluded shack. The girl's brother immediately ran to inform their father, a 23-year-old man whose identity remains undisclosed. Fueled by his daughter's cries for help, the father hurried towards the source of the commotion. As he burst into that shack, a horrifying sight greeted him. Both Flores and his daughter had their underwear removed. The father pulled Flores off the girl in a blind rage and started beating him with his fists. He mercilessly struck Flores' head and neck until he knocked him out. The father immediately dialed 911, desperately pleading for help. His cries for assistance reverberated through the phone lines, his emotions spiraling out of control. In his frantic state, he admitted to beating up the man who had violated his daughter, urging the dispatcher to hurry as the man's life hung in the balance. At one point, he exclaimed, "Come on, this guy's gonna die on me. I don't know what to do." By the time the police arrived at the scene, the attacker, Jesus Mora Flores, had already succumbed to his injuries. During the trial, the father's attorney emphasized that her client, a peaceful member of the community, had no intention of killing anyone on that fateful day. The father's actions were solely driven by the instinct to shield his child from harm. Also, witnesses reported seeing Flores forcefully carrying the girl into that secluded area within the family's ranch. That triggered the father's instincts, compelling him to save his child. Later, the Lavaca County grand jury determined that the father's actions were justified. They chose not to indict him, aligning with the conclusions of the police, who had thoroughly reviewed the evidence. The grand jury acknowledged that the father had acted within his rights to protect his daughter, allowing the use of deadly force to ensure her safety. And despite the tragedy that shook the small Texan county, its residents rallied behind the father, recognizing the depth of his love and understanding what a parent would go through to protect their family. Number 4. Jay Maynor. June 8, 2014. A man from Alabama named Jay Maynor took matters into his own hands and fatally shot his daughter's abuser. But let's get into this story a bit deeper. 2002, Raymond Earl Brooks, the adopted grandfather of Jay Maynor's daughter Julia, pleaded guilty to abusing her and only ended up serving a measly 18 months for that heinous crime. It's unimaginable. Now you might be wondering what pushed Jay to the edge and drove him to kill his daughter's attacker after a staggering 14 years. Well, it all comes down to Julia. Picture this: a girl, innocent and vulnerable, enduring unimaginable pain at the hands of her own adopted grandfather. Brooks, who had raised Julia's mother as his own until she turned 21, was supposed to be a figure of trust and love. Instead, he shattered their lives with his sickening actions. Fast forward to that fateful day in 2014. Julia, a mother of 3, was still grappling with PTSD, a condition that had taken a toll on her marriage. She was also infuriated by the fact that the man who had stolen her innocence and shattered her life had only received a minor punishment. And Jay, a father who had witnessed the devastating impact of Brooks' abuse on his daughter, could no longer bear the weight of justice failing him. In a moment of desperation and fueled by a father's love, Jay Maynor made a decision that would change everything. He grabbed his firearm and headed out into the street with one sole purpose: to eliminate Brooks. As Jay Maynor made his way towards Brooks' residence, he also fired shots at a country store located in the Berlin community. He unleashed his fury upon the Berlin Plaza Quick Stop when he spotted a man who had been romantically involved with his stepdaughter. His stepdaughter, whose name remains unknown, had ended her relationship with the man sometime before the incident. Although Jay's stepdaughter's ex-boyfriend managed to seek refuge inside the building and remained unharmed, Jay Maynor was charged with attempted murder. Julia Maynor later explained why her dad decided to shoot at her stepdaughter's ex-boyfriend, claiming that her father targeted this man due to his abusive behavior towards her stepsister. So we can't help but wonder what Julia said to her father that made him so furious that he was willing to eliminate 2 men he thought harmed his daughters. Jay Maynor was swiftly apprehended by the police and openly admitted to his crimes. He ultimately agreed to a plea deal that would see him spend 40 years behind bars, 20 years for attempted murder and 20 years for Brooks's murder. Julia Maynor believed the prison sentence was unjust for a man who was simply trying to protect his children. In an interview, she said, "He took a plea deal so that I didn't have to relive the molestation and also be on the stand in front of a bunch of people. My father was protecting me like a father should do." Whether Jay Maynor's act was justified or not, we'll leave it up to you to decide. Number 3, Barry Gilton and Lupe Mercado, July 2012. Barry Gilton and his partner Lupe Mercado decided to take matters into their own hands upon learning their daughter was involved with and being abused by a pimp. So how does this story unfold? Barry Gilton grew up on Central Avenue, which fell within the territory controlled by the Central Divisadero Players, one of the prominent rival gangs in that district. Although some of Barry's extended family members were associated with the CDP, he never actively engaged in their criminal activities or became a gang member himself. Eventually, Barry moved away and started a family with his partner, Lupe Mercado, raising 4 children, including their daughter, Leticia. Trouble found Leticia when she decided to move to LA. There she became involved with Calvin Sneed, a pimp. At first, Sneed deceived her by pretending to be in a romantic relationship with her. However, he soon resorted to threats and violence to keep her trapped in the world of prostitution. Barry and Lupe were devastated when they discovered the horrifying truth about what Sneed had done to their daughter. They desperately tried to convince her to return home to San Francisco, but she stubbornly refused to leave Sneed's clutches. Frustrated and fearing for their daughter's safety, Barry made a life-altering decision. He reached out to his cousin, Antonio Gilton, and his friend Alfonso Williams, both members of CDP, seeking their help in eliminating Sneed. June 4th, 2012 wasn't a good day for Sneed while he was on his way to pick up Leticia. Out of nowhere, an SUV pulled up next to his car and the people inside were armed with at least 2 guns. Chaos ensued when they started shooting at his car, causing him to lose control of his Corolla and crash into a parked van at the top of the street. Initially, California authorities charged Barry and Lupe with the murder. However, just before their trial, the U.S. Attorney decided to indict him under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, or RICO, and the Violent Crimes in Aid of Racketeering Act, also known as VICR. This unexpected twist meant that Barry and Lupe ended up spending 5 to 6 years in federal prison before their trial even began. The prosecution had to prove that Barry and Lupe had agreed to help with the criminal enterprise, but the evidence didn't cut it. The prosecution's arguments were all based on guesswork, instead of solid evidence showing Barry's intentions to back up the gang. So it totally made sense for the district court to let Barry and Lupe off the hook in this racketeering case. However, they were charged and convicted of being accessory to murder. Number 2. Maryann Bachmeier. March 6, 1981. Maryann unleashed a hail of bullets in a packed courthouse in what was then West Germany. Her target? A 35-year-old criminal standing for the brutal murder of her daughter. He died after taking 6 of her bullets. Immediately, Maryann became an infamous figure. Her subsequent trial, closely followed by the German public, raised a burning question. Was her quest for vengeance justified in the face of her child's senseless murder? Fast forward 40 years, and the case still lingers in the collective memory as the most spectacular example of vigilante justice in post-war German history. But before she earned the moniker Germany's Revenge Mother, Maryann Bachmeier was an ordinary struggling single mom, trying to make ends meet by running a pub in the 1970s. May 5th, 1980. Maryann's world was shattered when her beloved daughter was discovered lifeless. On that tragic day, this girl decided to skip school after a heated argument with her mother. Little did she know she would end up in the clutches of her 35-year-old neighbor, Klaus Grabowski, a local butcher with a dark past involving child molestation. As investigators later discovered, Grabowski had kept the young girl Anna at his home for several hours before he tragically ended her life by strangling her. The extent of any other abuse she may have suffered remains unknown, but Grabowski's atrocious act was quickly discovered as his fiancée alerted the police that very evening, leading to his swift arrest. Although he confessed to the murder, he denied any abuse. Instead, Grabowski spun a bizarre and disturbing tale. According to the killer, Anna had attempted to blackmail him, seducing and threatening to accuse him of molestation if he didn't give her money. Maryann, Anna's mother, was outraged by this twisted story. A year later, when Grabowski stood trial for the murder, she decided to take her long-awaited revenge. During the 3rd day of the trial, Maryann managed to sneak a Beretta 70 into the courtroom. She used that weapon to fatally shoot Grabowski with precision, she aimed that gun at his back and pulled the trigger 7 times. 6 of those shots found their mark, instantly ending his life. Maryann then calmly lowered her gun and surrendered without any resistance, and ultimately found herself on trial for murder. During the trial, Maryann testified that she had dreamt of shooting Grabowski and even claimed of seeing visions of her beloved daughter in the courtroom. In her own words, she said, "I did it for you, Anna." 1983. The court ultimately convicted Maryann of premeditated manslaughter, sentencing her to 6 years behind bars. September 17, 1996. Maryann Bachmeier passed away at the age of 46 after a battle with cancer. She was laid to rest beside her precious daughter, Anna. And number 1. Gary Plauché. March 16, 1984. Gary Plauché was anxiously waiting at the airport. His son Jody had been kidnapped by a man named Jeff Doucet. And on that day, Gary shot Jeff dead right in front of the cameras. Before any of this happened, Gary had led a relatively ordinary life. He had served in the U.S. Air Force for a short time and then worked as an equipment salesman. He even dabbled in camera work for a local news station. Nothing too crazy, just a regular guy trying to make a living. But then, everything changed. February 19, 1984, something unimaginable happened to Jody Plauché, an innocent boy. His karate instructor, Jeff Doucet, offered to take him for a quick ride. Jody's mom, June, didn't think twice about it. After all, Doucet was a trusted member of their community and had been teaching karate to their kids for a while. Little did June know that Doucet had ulterior motives. Instead of a short joyride, he took Jody on a bus all the way to the West Coast. Along that way, Doucet decided to change their appearances. He shaved his beard and dyed Jody's blonde hair black, hoping to fool anyone who might be looking for him. They ended up near a cheap motel near Disneyland in Anaheim, California. But this wasn't a fun vacation. Inside the motel room, Doucet did something terrible. He assaulted Jody, his own student. Eventually, Jody mustered up the courage to ask Doucet if he could call his parents. Surprisingly, he allowed it. Jody's parents wasted no time and immediately alerted the police. They traced that call, managing to apprehend Doucet. Meanwhile, Jody was put on a flight back home to Louisiana, finally safe from his captor. Despite finding his son, Plauché couldn't shake off his unease. He spent the next few days held up in a local bar called the Cotton Club, anxiously asking anyone if they could find when Doucet would be brought back to Baton Rouge for trial. By sheer luck, a former WBRZ news colleague was there, informing Plauché that the disgraced karate instructor would be flown in at 9:08 a.m. Plauché wasted no time, heading straight to the Baton Rouge airport. Disguised with a baseball cap and sunglasses, he entered the arrivals hall, concealing his face. Making a quick call from a payphone, he noticed the WBR news crew preparing their cameras to capture the moment when Jeff would be escorted off the plane by a caravan of cops. As they passed by, Plauché swiftly retrieved a gun hidden in his boot and fired a fatal shot into Doucet's head. The WBRZ crew managed to capture the chilling moment on camera, and the footage has since gathered over 20 million views on YouTube. It shows Doucet collapsing while Barnett, a police officer, immediately tackled Plauché against the wall. During the chaos, Barnett shouted at his friend, demanding an explanation for his actions. Through tears, Plauché responded, "If someone did that to your kid, you'd do the same." While Plauché had taken the life of a child molester, the law still considered it murder. He would face trial, uncertain if he would walk free or be imprisoned. Initially charged with second-degree murder, Plauché eventually agreed to a plea bargain, pleading no contest to manslaughter. The court sentenced him to a suspended sentence of 7 years, along with 5 years of probation and 300 hours of community service, which he completed in 1989. Before he had completed both, Plauché was already back to living a relatively normal life under the radar.